Open up the doors. There we go.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. A little housekeeping before we begin. Everyone is muted during the webinar. All webinars will be recorded and sent to the attendees after the webinar has concluded. Tomorrow, the recorded webinar will be sent to all participants. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to ask questions during the webinar by clicking on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Once the presentation concludes, I will ask the questions presented in the Q&A box. I may not get to everyone's questions, but we will do our best. With that being said, I would like to introduce you to Reuben Franco, the President and CEO of the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Edna, and thank you everybody for being on today's webinar, Understanding Certification, Contracting, and Procurement. It's a series we've been doing. We're very fortunate to have Raul Medrano and Mr. Michael Farage, who are two consultants that are experts in certifications. They will be giving the presentation today. Briefly, the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has been around 35 years. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 35th anniversary. All of the services we provide through the SBDC are at no cost. We can provide one-on-one consulting and webinars like this due to the fact that we get funding from the SBA, from the governor's office, and also from lenders like Wells Fargo, Comerica, US Bank, and others that help support what we're doing. So I'm going to kick it off and send it over to Raul and Michael to give the presentation. Raul and Michael.
All right, thank you very much, Reuben. And it's good to be here. I want to say good morning to everyone. Hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate. I know it's difficult, especially if you're a small business, to spend that kind of time. So we try to keep it short. You know, the workshops are for an hour, but at the end of the presentation, we'll have contact information for Michael and myself. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions relative to your particular business, and we'll be glad to help you. Again, as Reuben said, there's no cost for any of the consulting services that we provide. Before we start the slide presentation, I would like to give you a little history of the diversity programs and basically, you know, when they started, how they started, and the difference between two different categories. These programs are to provide diverse businesses with support and opportunities. So that's basically what these certifications are trying to do and what these agencies are trying to do. These programs have been around for a while, okay? A little history lesson. In the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, President Nixon and Secretary of Commerce Maurice Stans came up with the idea of, instead of just giving welfare to support the underserved community, they developed this plan to help diverse and underserved businesses, and the Minority Business Development Agency was formed out of there. And President Nixon gave a speech, Bridges to Human Dignity, in which he outlined this plan. And this is kind of like the crux of how the government, you know, really got involved in this diverse area. What we're trying to accomplish with these certifications and with the documentation that's required is the qualifying individual needs to be 51% ownership, 51% controlled, and 51% managed by the qualifier. Qualifier being, you know, the woman-owned, minority-owned, small business-owned, disadvantaged, any of those, they're looking at this 51%. So that's what basically we're trying to prove, or these certifications are trying to prove. Okay, next slide. Okay, these are all the not all, but these are basically most of the certifications that are involved in the state of California and the federal. So we have the 8A, we have the Hubzone, and we'll get into these a little bit. We'll delve into these a little bit closer. Hubzone, women-owned, economic disadvantage, small business, veteran-owned business, and state of California certifications, Department of Transportation, the CPUC, which is the Clearinghouse for Public Utilities, and then on the private sector side, National Minority Supplier Development Council. Now, when we talk about certifications, we have public and private sector certifications, okay? The private sector certifications, they're not mandated by any law or regulation. These are certifications that each individual, in order to participate in these major corporations, you need to have a certification to get you into these programs. Now, these programs, again, are not mandated, but these corporations that are involved with the program are involved in it because, number one, it makes, while they're doing something with our community, and it's the right thing to do. Well, that's great, but they also it also provides them with access to a market that's growing, and they should look at it in terms of an opportunity for their company to grow. So, and I'd rather have it that way, because if the corporations are getting something out of these diverse programs, then we have a possibility that they're going to continue supporting these programs. Next slide, please. The first federal program that we're going to discuss is the 8A, the 8A Business Development Program. And basically, this is probably the only set-aside program that I'm aware of in which the federal government will set aside 5% of the government contracts nationwide to be given through the 8A program. Now, once you get in the program, there's a chance of getting set-aside contracts in which it's sole sourced, no bid required. You can also form joint ventures, be a mentor protege. So there's a lot of opportunities, and Michael and I have seen a lot of companies that have really utilized this program to grow their business. In construction, I believe it's 36 million, Michael?
Yes, for small business.
Yeah, So, there's, when we talk about small business, that's a pretty good chunk of business to have. So, and that's in construction area. Every industry has a different size standard. So, it might be different for subcontractors. This is, general contractors. Could be different for advertising agencies, so on and so forth. So every industry has a different size standard. Next page. Hubzones. Okay. Hubzone is basically a zone in which the federal government has determined that it's been underserved, and so you would have to find out where that hub zone is. You would have to your company needs to be in a hub zone to take advantage of this program. You need to have your business needs to have at least 35% of your employees to reside in the hub zone or in a hub zone. So it could be the hub zone that the business is in, or it could be other hub zones. It must be a small business, so that you would have to look under your size standard, make sure that participates, that you can participate because of where you're located. With the federal government certifications, most of them require U.S. citizenship, so you need to remember that. Okay. Now, the federal government, has several different certifications. Hub zone, we talked about 8A, and as you get involved with the process, and you start marketing and you start talking to these agents, federal agencies, they actually, and they won't, of course, tell you this, but they actually give preference if you have, more than one designation. So if you're an 8A company and a hub zone and a woman-owned business, you've got a better chance of getting contracts than some of the other ones, okay, than just being 8A by itself. So hub zone is a good certification, and the size and the amount of contract goal that they have is 3% of all government contracts. Doesn't sound like a lot, 3%, but when you're looking at trillions of dollars, it comes out to a good portion of contracts. And marketing is really important. One good thing, and I was going to point out that as we talk about all these certifications, it's important to know that just because you get certified doesn't mean that, they're going to be knocking on your door saying, hey, here's a contract for you. This is just going to be a tool for you to put with all your other tools to get contract opportunities. So, remember that as you're going after these contracts, but you basically, again, go back to the basics of doing business and the basics of contracting. You need to be obviously qualified to do the contracts. That's not going to change. You need to have the experience to do it, and pricing is an issue on most of these contracts, except for the 8A, where those contracts are negotiated. Next slide. Women-owned small business federal contracting program. Again, administered by the Small Business Administration. It gives women-owned businesses an opportunity to participate, and they give preferences to these women-owned businesses. The goal for the federal government is 5%. So this is what their goal is. Okay, unlike the 8A, which is sole sourced, this is not sole source. So you would be bidding with other women-owned businesses. Okay, so then next slide, please. Okay, I think one of the things that you need to understand with the women-owned business or economically disadvantaged women business, a lot of times they look at the NAICS codes to determine if women are represented in the NAICS code. So these NAICS codes will, there's a NAICS code for general contracting, there's one for subcontracting, there's one for advertising, computers, you name it, they have a NAICS code. So the SBA has a list of those NAICS codes that have opportunities for women. Okay, so you need to look at that. Your local SBA office should be your best friend. You should contact them and talk to them and participate in as many programs as you possibly can. Now, in today's age and time, it's really difficult to get in front of people. Everybody's working out of their homes. Everybody's doing webinars. So I would recommend very strongly that if you're not familiar with social media or feel comfortable that you better learn how to do that, because that's going to be the networking of the future. I don't see a lot of big banquets going on, at least not at this point, and I think that they're going to, if they do, they'll start it slowly. I don't see a lot of in-person workshops or events, conventions, conferences. So again, your best bet is to learn about social media, get on there, see who's on there. I see people that, are involved with their various companies, and it's important that, you make comments and tell them, who you are and what you're doing. And, a lot of these individuals that are on there are procurement people. So start learning how to do social media. Next slide. Okay, small business, small disadvantaged business. So 23% of government-wide, they want to do with small business set-aside contracts. The business must be small according to SBA standards and your particular NACE code. So the SBA, that's the 23% is their contracting goal to do business with small businesses. 5% of those contracts are the goal for the SBA standards, NICS codes, and 51% unconditionally owned by the disadvantaged business. So you got small business one, and you got small disadvantaged business two. Now the difference between the small business and the small disadvantaged business is that under the small disadvantaged business, you have to be socially and economically disadvantaged. If you're part of a minority group, you're probably already socially disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged. You would have to have a net worth of no more than $250,000, $500,000 if you're married, husband and wife, and that excludes your principal residence, and also your business. So any net worth that you have in your business, or the net worth you have in your home, will not count towards that $250,000. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Veteran-owned small business and service disabled business program. Veteran-owned business, they have, and this is the VA talking, they have a program in which they've created to do business with veteran-owned business. And now they've expanded it to service disabled, okay? Now, unless they've changed any contracts that are let out by the VA under these programs, they don't let out just general small business. They utilize veteran-owned and disabled veteran-owned. Okay, so if you're looking at participating under any veteran programs, just remember that you have an opportunity there. And so, I would contact the Veterans Administration to find out, what kind of contracts are available. They have a 3% on the disabled veteran side. They have a 3% contracting goal through the Veteran Administration. Okay, next slide. Okay, we're talking about state of California certification. The state of California has a program in which they have a 5% preference on all solicitations if you're certified with the state of California as a small business. Now, that 5% preference is applied when you bid on a contract. So if you're higher than the next bid, if you're higher by 5%, you could possibly get that contract, even though you have bid it higher. Okay, so that's the way the 5% preference works, and it's a good preference. But again, you have to be certified through the state of California as a small businesses. Okay, and there's some size standards involved. There is, let me see if I have the size standards here. Okay, I don't have it here. Michael, you remember what the size standards are on small businesses?
I know one of them might be about 15 million, but I could pull that up while you're going through the.
Yeah, it's a good size amount where, you know, they're pretty liberal on that, and so 15 million covers a lot of territory, so that would be under the small business program. Next slide. Disabled Veteran Business Program, State of California. So you can see the State of California has a disadvantaged business program also. So 3% of the state's overall annual contract dollars will go to disadvantaged business. So there's some opportunities there if you're a disadvantaged business or a disadvantaged or disabled veteran business. In order to get that certification or any disabled veteran business certificate, you need to get a letter from the Veterans Administration showing that you are at least 10% disabled. And so that would come from the VA. They would look into your record and make that determination. If you are 10% or more disabled, then you would qualify for not just the state of California, but also the federal government programs. Next slide. Okay, small business for the purpose of public work certification. So this certification is strictly for public works. So that would be a good one if you're looking at, you know, the construction area, road, and a lot of times, you know, that certification is it would be good certification because a lot of times they would require, because a lot of the road projects, construction have federal funds. Anything that has federal funds will need to have a certain portion of that contract going to a socially disadvantaged business. Okay. Next slide. Okay, we talked about the federal government, Caltrans, DBE certification, and this is where, see, the state of California doesn't require DBEs, but the federal government does. So anytime you have federal dollars, again, going to Caltrans or Metro or any agency that gets federal dollars, they want to see, you know, a percentage of the contracts going to disadvantaged companies. And the only way you can get credit or participate in these programs is that you need to be certified under Caltrans. So that's state of California. So and it's important to remember in this that a lot of these certifications do not have reciprocity with other agencies. So just because you have one certification doesn't mean it'll be accepted by another agency. So when you're dealing with these agencies, you got to be careful that you get the right certification. You know, these certifications are good. You're not going to need them all. I don't think there's any company that's going to need all these certifications. But you're going to, you know, depending upon where you see your market and what, you know, is it going to be with the state of California? Is it going to be with the federal government? So that's going to direct the kind of certifications that you're going to get. And so you need to be informed about those certifications that will help your company to get your foot in the door, you know. And so it's important that as you look at you know, these opportunities, that you take a look at those. And again, there's always that underlying that you need to be qualified and you need to have the wherewithal to handle these kinds of contracts. So just because you're certified doesn't mean that you're going to get opportunities. You know, this is just going to be a tool that you're going to have, an additional tool to help you in that process. So if you are disadvantaged or small business, you know, these agencies, if they see you're qualified, are more than likely going to be able to give you a contract based upon, number one, your qualifications, but number two, the fact that you're certified through one of these agencies. Next slide. The Cpuc Clearinghouse. So this is certification for women, minority, service disabled, veterans, LGBT-owned businesses. So this certification and the clearinghouse is funded by the Public Utility Commission. So all of your utilities, phone companies, gas companies, electric companies, fund the clearinghouse to certify in their programs. So these utilities have 15% goal for minority businesses, 5% for women, and 1.5% for service disabled veterans. No goals have been set for the LGBT firms. So this is again, the clearinghouse is funded by these utilities. So they're going to say, if I'm AT&T, I'm going to want you to be certified through the clearinghouse. Now, there's no charge for the certification that you get through the clearinghouse. Some agencies do charge a processing fee. So, and of course, there's no charge for the SBDC to help you to prepare the documentation that you need to get any and all these certifications that we're talking about. Next slide. National Minority Supplier Development Council. This is a organization, a national organization, but they also have regional councils. There's one here in Los Angeles, one in the San Francisco area, and one in San Diego. And so this organization is primarily a private sector certification. So what does that mean? That means that any major national corporation, probably you got a 95% possibility that they're going to be involved with the NMSDC. And they will require that certification. So if you want to do business with, say, Bank of America or the airlines or any other major national company, then you're going to need to get certified. So, and since these major corporations fund the National Minority Supplier Development Council, they're going to want you to be certified through them. Now, there are a few that won't require you to get certified, but you know, I would say probably 99% of them will want you to be certified, because that's the only true way of determining whether they're in fact doing business with a underserved business. So one good thing about the NMSDC, both the local and also the national, is they have business opportunity fairs. They've got some education that they can help you with. They help you with networking opportunities. I go to the national conference every year, and there's they have an expo with about 700 major corporations that you can walk through and talk to somebody from that company and talk to them about doing business with them. Now, as you look at these companies, you know, some of them are obviously more friendlier than others in terms of doing business. I'll be very frank with you. Some of them, you know, are just there to let everyone know that, you know, that they're there, but they don't really have a program. So you need to look into it. You need to determine whether these companies are in fact companies that have a legitimate program, that are truly understand what we call supplier diversity. Okay, and the key to that, when I look at a company, I find out what kind of staff do they have that runs their supplier diversity department, and that kind of gives me an idea of what their commitment is. If you have a major national corporation that has one person, well, you know, I'll tell you that person probably won't even have time to answer his phone or her phone. And so it's important that you look at them and do your homework on these companies, okay? And then you have others that have, you know, a staff of 15 handling their supplier diversity. If these companies truly understand supplier diversity, there's a business case for supplier diversity, meaning that if they do business with minority companies or women-owned companies or any diverse company, even small business companies, they are actually accessing the market that is a growth market for them. Most banks look at that as a opportunity for them to grow their business, in addition to helping business. But if it's profitable for them, then I like that. I like the fact that they're going to make money, and then the small businesses or diverse businesses will continue making money also. Next slide. Contact information. We got Michael Farage. We're both located in Orange County. We both have a tremendous amount of experience. Michael has 15 years?
Yes, 15 years.
Yeah, and I have 25. So we've been around. We know, you know, what's available. You know, every company is different. Every company has different needs, different services. Again, take a look at, you know, the certifications that make sense for you and see what we can do to help you out. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here, and we'll open it up for questions.
You know, I don't see any questions pop up.
I don't see any questions pop up either. So I don't know. Do we have any questions? I thought we had one or two.
You had one question just asking about the presentation, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Edna, we'll be sending out the presentation tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll be sending out the presentation along with the recording of this webinar.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. And again, feel free, if you want to talk about your business specifically, feel free to call, you know, Michael or I, and we'll be glad to discuss your particular needs or services. And, you know, in addition to certifications, there's other areas that we can help out on. We've been doing a lot of PPP loans. We've been doing, you know, a lot of support in regards to our economy. And so there's other areas, you know, we can do business plans, we can do corporate capability statements, and keep in touch with, you know, with these webinars, because we're going to have some great information for you. We're going to have companies that are going to be presenting on how to do business with their specific company. And so I think this will be an opportunity. I'm looking into talking or having someone present on social media on how to develop a social media plan for your company, so that, you know, you can get your name out there and use different strategies to make your company successful. Going over the federal procurement, I know that was, you know, pretty confusing, a lot of information, but going over the federal procurement goals again: small business, 23%, small disadvantaged, 5%, women-owned business, small business, 5%, Hubzone, 3%, service veterans, 3%. So with that concludes our webinar. Michael, you want to?
Well, yeah, we have a question. So a women-owned Hispanic construction company, they'd like to know what works best, what certification would work best for them. They mentioned California and nationwide certifications.
Well, I am a big fan of the private sector, okay, for any of the certifications. The government sectors seem to let more people bid on their contracts than the private sector. My experience is the private sector, you know, and I'm talking anything from Disney to all your banks. I mean, there's over 800 members. You know, there's a book that there's published with all these contacts and stuff. But it's been my experience that if you can get your company to be invited to be one of the 4 or 5 companies to bid, then you have a heck of a lot better chance of getting a contract than if you go on a government contract and they allow 50 companies. So that's something to think about. You know, the industry is important because, you know, there's obviously a lot of contracting companies out there, both minority, non-minority, but there's not a lot of women minority construction companies, okay? So that's in your favor, and I think that would probably be the best one to use, and it's nationwide. The certification is nationwide, and again, it will put you in front of people, and it would also, you would also be able to attend the various events they have. I mean, the national is obviously a big event, and if you don't know how to negotiate that, you can get lost. But you know, I on occasion will take a client, and they have them throughout the United States. So you know, it could be in Atlanta this year, next year it could be in Phoenix, could be in New York. So it bounces around. But the local, the local council, the one here in LA, which is Southern California Minority Development Council, they have a small event also. Now these used to be, obviously, they would have expos and they would have various workshops, and you know, it would last a couple of days on a local level. That was canceled this year because of the coronavirus, but I anticipate that they'll probably get back on next year in some manner. But again, if not, You're going to need to get more involved in social media, learn how to communicate and make comments. If you see someone's having a birthday, you know, send them an e-card, you know, or wish them, you know, wish them happy birthday. Keep getting your name in front of these people that you might need to call to see what the opportunities are. So one of the things that I've done that has been very successful, and Reuben can probably vouch for this, is that, you know, I've gotten myself involved in organizations that help me put my name and face in front of people. I have volunteered. I've been involved with the chamber probably 30 years. Okay, and so I'm past chair of the Orange County. I'm past chair of California Hispanic Chamber. You know, the involvement that you put into it in the community. You know, just don't participate in one workshop. You know, make sure that you put your name out there in front of people, especially when we're going to have these individuals from various companies that are going to be talking to you about how to do business with Edison or how to do business with Disney. You know, and you definitely want to, you know, get their contact information and make sure you reach out to them. Send them a corporate capability statement. And then make sure you're certified with the right agency. If you have any questions about getting certified with the right agency, you can call Michael or myself. Any other questions?
No, the private certifications that you were talking about, or memberships, that was your last slide, Raul?
Yeah, the NMSDC or the Southern California, which is basically, we got the NMSDC, which is the national, and then you have the Southern California MSDC. That is the local one here in Los Angeles. So those are the ones that I recommend for private sector nationwide. Okay, there are some fees involved in their application process, and it's on a sliding scale depending upon the size of your company and your revenues, your gross revenues. So keep that in mind. So that's it. The best California certification. Well, again, that just depends on what agency. I mean, small business. What you have to remember is the state of California does not have, at least not yet, a minority program. And so they do have a small business program. So at this point, I would recommend you get certified as a small business, which is a pretty easy process, pretty fast. And then also take a look at their, Caltrans, because that's a good a certification to have, because that would allow you to do some work with Caltrans, and not only will it let you do work with Caltrans State of California, if they have federal funds, but also a lot of your agencies, your small government agencies, will utilize that certification. It's called a unified certification. So a lot of your state and county entities that have programs will utilize that certification. So if you're looking at doing business with the city of LA, I would get that Caltrans certification. Any other questions?
I think that wraps it up, Raul.
That's it? Okay.
No more questions?
Well, again, you have our numbers. Feel free to pick up the phone or email us, and we'll be glad to help you. And if you need a certification, we'll be glad to walk you through that and make sure that you fill out the application correctly and have all the documentation that you need. All right,
Thank
I
you,
want to
Mark.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yeah, thank you, Raul. Thank you, Michael, and thank you everybody for being on the call. Please watch out for further advisements. We'll be basically sending out advisements on doing business with the state of California, Disney, and others going forward. So just look in your email and our posts on our website. Have a safe and healthy day, everybody. Take care.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Michael.